could you tell us why your family owned the jungle ever since you were born?
Yeah, it's actually back in the 300-400 years back. We owned forests, but where we are staying now, this special place, my grandfather bought it in 1921.
The grandfather who wanted to go to India in his
Yes,
lifetime.
correct. Yeah. I fulfilled his dreams, actually. This is nice.
Taka knows everything.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I'm sure. So how were you attracted to India in the first place when you were born? When you were a kid?
Actually, I started at a quite early age. I watched a film called The Elephant Boy.
Elephant Boy.
And that was a black and white. I think it was actually inspired by Rudyard Kipling's
Jungle Book?
In the Jungle Book, yeah. And then my teacher in the 6th class, she was showing films about Ganges, and I read about even the caste system. And I got really fascinated. And I was very fascinated. I was also fascinated by Japan, actually. I had a pen friend, 72, I think, 72. Yeah, I was writing.
What is her name?
Yoko.
Joko.
Yeah.
Yoko.
Yeah, Yoko, yeah.
Like Yoko Ono.
Yoko Ono, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so that I really inspired, and then of course I went to London, and I got in touch with a lot of Indian restaurants, Indian life actually. So I was longing to go to India for a long time. So my dream was fulfilled in 1975, and this is how it turned out. And that's great.
And I also wanted to ask you about your field trip from Sweden to India.
Yeah.
Before going to India, of course, you entered Pakistan, right?
Yeah.
Because it's on the road.
Yeah, and we came through the Khyber Pass, and it was very fascinating. I knew about it, but there was no man's land in that area also. And you know, we were 4 grown-up people in the van, and a child, 1-year-old. And one was Indian, and he had an Indian passport. So he was, of course, not allowed to go into Pakistan. So I had the responsibility to just take his family and another friend driving through there. And you know, being a girl, and I was the only one having a driving license and able to drive the car. So of course that was experience, and feeling a little bit afraid, of course, because you know, there was military bases everywhere, and a little bit scary in that way.
Yeah, because
but we managed, and luckily we just turned up in India.
What was the biggest difference between India and Pakistan for you?
Well, as I said, you know, there's a tension between Pakistan and India, and most probably around borders where there is infected. You could feel the tension, and of course, it's sad that it should be this feeling there. But I went to my friend's family there in Punjab. So that was a very warm welcome, and feeling that we were all part of that family there. So I felt, as I said, I was longing to go to India. So just going through all this country down there, I was just quickly passing to get as fast as possible to India. That was the aim at that time. Yeah.
And so back to PK. So in your book, one of the highlight scene was your mother has to leave the house.
Yeah,
when you were like 3 or 4 years old, I think.
Yeah, 4 years, yeah.
So please tell us, why did she have to leave the house?
It was something, an argument with my grandmother, I think, and it was. I didn't ask actually my mom. I should have asked about this, but it's a very old thing, you know. So
of course,
there was some conflict between my grandmother and my mother. I think my father was not at home, you know. He was in a post office, you know, that he was working. So there was some argument with my sister was just half a year old, I remember. And very vague memory I have got, you know, that how she was carrying my sister and going away, and my grandmother was holding my arm and forcing me to stay. I wanted to follow my mom, but she wanted me to stay with her and grandmother. And so that
on the father's side.
Yeah, my father was not at home, and you know, I remember that because I was crying and then I kept quiet, and you know, after some time, it was. Yeah. But the old things, you know. Now I'm happy with it now. The happiest man on this planet.
As I translated the book, one of the biggest surprise was you really admire the British rulers.
Yeah.
So how did the British improve the lives of
you know,
India?
Yeah. For childhood, I saw, you know, my grandfather told me many things, because the English man, they used to come to my grandfather to borrow the elephant. We had elephant, so they used to go for in the forest. They like to take the elephant and, you know, for hunting or something. So there was a friendship between the British people and my grandfather. So the people came with the present. We had a present, I remember, a big old Oxford dictionary, I remember.
Dictionary?
Oxford, it was a big Cambridge or Oxford, some big dictionary, you know. Very thick book. That is the only book we had at home in the village. And we never opened that book many years, but my grandmother used to think that it was a holy book from the white land, you know. So she was worshipping the books. But when I went to school, I was curious. I opened it. It was actually a dictionary, the old dictionary, Cambridge or something like that.
List of words.
Yeah, words, you know. So, and they used to borrow an elephant and they used to shake hand with my grandfather.
Touch.
Touch, you know. So then my grandfather, every time some British will come to our house, and then he used to be touched, you know, and thanks. You know, he said, these people are very good. And I said, then he told me also, when I went to the Papa's post office, the post office that was built by the British, and the letter box was, we were putting letters, it was from England, this red one, I know, old letter box. It's for England. And this hospital, we went, it was for England. I mean, British people did it. And there was a political agent, it's called. They were like Maharaja. When the Maharaja was a baby, I mean, 4 or 5 years old, not in my place. The Maharaja was very young, so British had to rule the place, you know. So they were ruling, and during their rule, within 7 years, I heard that all water tanks, water reservoir, they made it, schools, they made it, hospital, they made it, roads, they made it, everything. I mean, now we are using, I mean, today.
It's still there.
And if you come to Delhi, when you land in the airport, you go a few kilometers to the town, a city, the big buildings, Parliament House, President House, Connaught Place Shopping Center, everything is on Victorian style. It's English.
Like in the movie Viceroy's House.
Yeah, Viceroy. Who made this movie called Matron recently only.
Yes.
And so everything, but only change is big hotels, of course, done now. But public buildings, schools, colleges, libraries, police station, post office, President House, Parliament House, everything now we are using now. You can see when you come.
Especially in your village.
Oh, in Delhi also.
Oh, in Delhi. Yes.
You go to anywhere you go, railway station, communications, or the everything for the well-being of citizens in India done by. You can discover if you go today to Delhi, in Bombay. You will see, you would ask who did it, when it was made, the station, railway station.
Like during the Queen Victoria's era.
Yeah. So naturally what you see and what you hear, and I believed in it, you understand?
Yeah, of course.
So that's why I have a very high regard for the British Raj in India. And they did everything they did. I mean, as a child, I could feel that, And still now with the same feelings, I can't change my mind as that is the best thing for India. Yeah. And they have the British contribution also. There are language we can communicate with you.
Because India has, I would say, more than 100 languages in all over the country.
Yeah.
And English has always been the lingua franca.
Yeah. More than 600 languages and 66,000 dialects.
And so, Lotta, I have a question for the back to journey in your journey in 1975.
Yeah.
According to the book, you spotted PK a few days before the December 17th.
Yeah.
Why didn't you come back earlier?
Because we were actually traveling together in that group. So it was not easy for me to be separated from that. So we traveled around and went outside Delhi. And then coming back again, I took the chance to go back to this good place. Yes.
So he was waiting for you.
Yeah.
So PK, you pointed out the great contribution of the British Raj for the Indian society. So could you tell us about why you admire Robert Clive?
Yeah, in school, when I studied first English name, Western name I learned, it was Robert Clive, and who was the founder of the British Empire. And I heard about his life story. When he was 13, 14, he tried to kill himself 3 times, I think, commit suicide. And when I read, I felt very sorry for him. And that person was trying to kill himself. And that person came as a clerk to India, the East India Company, and he became the founder of the British Empire. It's fantastic. So I liked very much his life
journey.
And he was in England. His father was very unhappy with him. He was not appreciated by his father, and then he tried to kill himself 3 times. That I remember. I don't remember exactly, but very pathetic childhood he had, Robert Clive. And I could feel that my parents are very nice to me, but the society is very horrible to me. I was thinking, and but family also abandoned him actually one way. That's why I felt very sorry for him. And then he was successful. We learn from each other. We are here, my dear friend, just temporarily. This planet is not. We don't own anything here. We come with empty hand. I had no bicycle also. I was not born with a bicycle, I can tell you.
You were empty-handed in the beginning.